Good morning, it's VJ Franz K. Here I am working on CoolPaintrVR once again. And I think I'm going to call this guy Banana Hair, for obvious reasons, but I was just practicing a bit using the 3D Blob tool, or it's called Organic Shape. Actually, that's the official name, but because it makes blobs, we're going to call it the Blob tool for the purposes of this video. And I guess I will erase all the stuff step by step, just so you can see what I did do. Just drew a bunch of these shapes. Pretty simple, but it is sort of like doing a impressionist painting or something like that, or expressionist probably, to put out these huge blobs of paint. Just reset the scene here. Yes. And maybe I will start with a different background. Still would be cool if I had the option of using other colors besides these. But here we go. Here is the organic shape tool, and what color will I start with? Don't particularly know what I'm going to draw yet. Just draw some shapes until it becomes more obvious. But here is what the organic tool does. You draw shapes, and then as long as you can connect it back to itself, it will make a shape out of the thing. If you don't connect it back, like you do something like that isn't connected enough for it to be able to figure it out, even though I would like it to try to figure that out and just see what would happen, because I see I had too much sort of shape, too much variation in the thing, because even though it's not making a flat thing out of it, it still does sort of render it down to kind of a flat plane. So I guess if my shape goes out and just breaks the plane too much, give it a nonsensical shape. Wow, can it figure this one out? It did make something out of it. It didn't really have all of the elements of what I drew there, but good try. No. What I need to do is this selective eraser. Eraser, not trash can. So this, it looks like a pencil eraser. And there it goes. Back to these guys. I liked this as a start. My problem, or maybe it's just my method, I get going with a few random shapes and then I like those too much. I want to keep them. I don't want to get rid of them, and I might not want to finish off my original idea for the piece at all. Maybe I want to do something entirely different. Having a little tracking problems at the edge of the camera's range there, but I'll step back and then I'll move this object towards me. Unlike in those VR battle games where your position is stuck, here you basically have entire freedom to move the things wherever you want them to be. And a lot of people are buying the VR system, particularly PlayStation VR. It's a gaming system, but PC VR has more users for artistic purposes. Now here's an interesting thing. I can grab the red ball, which is the core of the object or something like that, the root point, but I can also bend these. Oh, that's a good way. I can bend these, and suppose I want to get like a three-dimensional sort of sculpture. Look at that. That's weird. It's like a snake or a dinosaur or something. Pretty weird. And wow, you know, wouldn't it be great if I could actually animate these steps? I think in some of the other PC 3D apps you can do this type of thing. For example, Oculus Medium. And definitely Anim VR. Oh, I twisted it. Did I twist it? Maybe I did. Maybe it's not supposed to be that way. People get into trouble if you let them. People get into trouble. Who knows? Who knows what it should look like? Right now it's kind of an abstract design rather than being a specific thing. Even though it does sort of look like pools of water or ocean shapes, maybe like the pattern of the caustics on water. When the ocean waves at the beach are flowing and you look into the water and you see these beautiful shapes of the white water over the blue water, and artistically you know that water is clear, but the more of it that gets piled up, the more and more and more you get blue-green colors and all sorts of things. I could probably do this for hours, but could be boring if I don't put in some other colors. That orange is just jumping out at me, isn't it? But maybe put in a darker blue, since we were talking about blue-green waves. I also wish that I could do this with hard edges if I wanted to get, these are rounded amorphous type of shapes. But if I had the ability to do straight line edges, I might make three-dimensional polygons or something like that also. Where does everything naturally go? Follow your intuition. Kind of looks like we're inside a lava lamp at this moment, doesn't it? Right. Have the choice of moving the specific or moving the... It's really weird. These things suddenly get more of a personality when you're able to bend them using, I guess this is inverse kinematics, used for animation and gaming models. Yeah. Complicated branching system here. Normally, you'd have to build a 3D model and rig it painstakingly by hand to get all of these things put in. But they've nicely done it for you. Though it's not going to be as precise as something that you spent several hours modeling and rigging, but so spontaneous. That is the big thing about VR art over modeling something in 2D. Using a 2D screen and a 2D mouse and all of those things to model something in 3D is not that intuitive. It's a challenge to represent a three-dimensional object when you have two-dimensional tools. But then you finally get three-dimensional tools like these, and then who knows what's going to happen. It's unusual, could be sometimes amazing. Here's something you cannot do if you're painting. You can't look at the other side of the artwork unless you started painting on glass or plastic or something like that. Is it going to make it? Is it going to make it? It just made it. These are beginning to look like creatures if I were to add facial details to these things, or eyes and mouth and other things on them, they would begin to really look like animals. Like here, this almost looks like a fish crossed with a rabbit with an eye right there, doesn't it? That is a pretty weird thought. Rabbit fish do not exist in the wild, though somebody with genetic splicing might try to do it. That would not make much sense. But in artwork, it can make perfect sense. I'll give him another ear. Why not? Tracking errors, but maybe it'll turn out worthwhile. Red eyes? No, no. I have seen rabbits with pink eyes before, so try it here. Rather strange. Rather strange. "3D art. How do you are we're talking VR art. How do you look at it? You can obviously open it up in a VR art browser. You can go onto a website like Sketchfab, where you can orbit around something. But you could also have it 3D printed. 3D printing. 3D printing something this big would cost a fortune right now, but the price will come down eventually. And in a couple of years, everyone is going to have augmented reality glasses to look at things anyway. So that will be that will solve the problem, right? We can use those export things. May be able to even get these 3D printed if I wanted to, but I'm waiting until I have something I really, really like the look of. I guess I did not close that enough. Who spilled the mustard? Everybody looks down, why don't they look up? If they look up, what would they see? Draw something down here, and then I'll put it up there. Yeah, that's wild. What is it? Objects can really seem to wrap around one another. How weird. Go back and look at it from the other side. The rabbit fish does not realize the strangeness that is going on the other side of the coral reef or something. If it really is underwater, okay. What more does it need? A sphere. Have no fear. Draw a sphere. The thing about drawing a sphere into abstract art is as soon as you start drawing spheres, people will begin to think it looks like a pair of eyes. We are very interested in looking at spheres. Our planet itself is a sphere. It's not flat. Sorry, flat earthers. It's not flat. It's a sphere. Why do they fear the sphere? Putting spheres together, it looks like one of those atomic diagrams that you see in science class. as long as people don't think that molecules actually look like that. Revolve shapes. Like that. It's kind of an impossible shape. Because I'm looking at the inside and the outside at the same time. Doesn't make that much sense in art. I mean, in the real world, but it makes great sense in art, where anything can happen. Hey, there's another one. It's a top. Just there's no stem on the top. Maybe the stem detaches after you spin it. Could also be a radar dish. Then the objects going through each other. Another great part of VR art is that objects can completely pass through one another. In 2D art or sculpture, it's going to be difficult to do that after you've set up the structure. It's a weird hourglass shape. These things are strangely beautiful. Unusual complexity. If I put it like that, then the unusualness of that shape really can be viewed. Could be a flower or a mushroom, stingray, an insect. That is what is so beautiful about abstract art. You make what you want to make, and then your mind, or the mind of people looking at it, makes the final decision what it is. Looks kind of like a hat. Definitely sort of a radar dish there. Does this tool ever refuse to make things? I guess Oh, that's interesting. It's like an audio cable or something, or one of those old cable TV plugs. Coaxial connector. Did I just block out that other shape that I liked? Yeah. This stuff was obscuring it. Oh, look at that. Idea of Boolean shapes. Shapes that go through one another. That's beautiful to look at. Also a bit mysterious. Wow, I thought it might crash the system, and I think I will save this before I accidentally do something that crashes the system. Save it to the console. Another advantage of VR art, you can stick your face through the picture. It doesn't always make sense, but it can be interesting. Too bad that it missed some of those loops. But I will let it get bent out of shape. I won't get bent out of shape about the situation. Perhaps a strange mushroom. A speaker. Or a record. A record with very, very few grooves on it. That is interesting. Adding pink. It's a challenge. Instantly, a color like red or pink can overwhelm the other elements if you're not careful. Those things going through each other. Look at all that. Four-dimensional mushroom. M.C. Escher would be proud. It's an impossible object. Or cubism. Look at all this stuff. Construction hat. A vase, a large vase for some flowers, maybe. an egg. Kind of ugly. A friend of mine is a model, and she said there has to be the right balance between beauty and ugliness. And that makes a lot of sense. All right, we've come back to the rabbit. The thing I had described as being a rabbit. The more other things are added, might take on a completely different Is there a right and wrong way to do an abstract picture? Maybe. But each artist would pick a different right, quote, right way to do it, unquote. You couldn't say objectively that that was the one right way to do it. Then the art critics appear and they tell us that one picture is better than these others. But, though that is an educated opinion, hopefully, it is one of many possible opinions. That part looks like the heel of a high-heeled shoe. But the front of the shoe is completely out of control. It's going off on its own direction. Wouldn't let me do shapes that are too sharp. That's too bad. I like to use angular shapes. Not closed enough. Again, not closed enough. People will look at a blob of color like this, particularly people who do not like modern or abstract art, and they will say it's just a bunch of nonsense. But they aren't looking hard enough. Even they will find some sort of meaning in an abstract picture. I wonder what is going wrong there. I've seen some pretty complicated pictures made with CoolPaintrVR, so I don't think that I should be overstepping the power of the application. Like an acorn crossed with a mushroom. The more colors you add, they may be the right colors, or they may end up distracting from the central purpose of that picture. Whatever you believe that purpose is. It's kind of interesting. Like a wing or some element emerging from the side. Might have to sneeze. There are enough colors already being used. I don't need more. Another impossible shape. Being eye to eye with a robot, perhaps. Now a person's face is emerging there. This is like a nose and lips. What you don't use is as important as what you do use. I'm not going to use any flat organics in this. Doesn't need to be here. Oops. Oh. Load it. Look at all this stuff. There. What? Deleted? Didn't want to do that. It's loading. Oh, I see the thumb. The thumb was a erase. That's not very cool. The scene has been saved to your console. Console. Not council. Console. That's interesting in itself, isn't it? Changing the size. It looks better small, doesn't it? Doesn't like shapes which cross over themselves. That is understandable. They are too illogical for its logic. You can't ask it to divide by 0. And also it cannot close an unclosable shape. I wouldn't mind if it tried, though. Do you see a face with wild curly hair? Maybe a mustache at the bottom there. Yellow mustache. That's a nice shape. Doesn't totally fit there, but I'm going to keep it. Maybe the title of the picture will be The Seaweed Man. Just noticed something weird about the PlayStation VR lenses. They look pretty normal, pretty good if you look straight ahead. But if you try to look to the extreme left or the extreme right, it has an unusual look to it. You can see the edges of the lenses. I said I wouldn't put any geometric shapes in it, but maybe, should I break that rule? Just put a big triangle right in there. Technically not a triangle, it is a pyramid. Rules, I guess, are meant to be broken. Nice pyramids, offsetting all of the more biological shapes there. How weird is that? Doctor Who sonic screwdriver type of thing. Can't forget the weirdness back here. Can I bring that forward? Should I bring that forward to the front? To what has now become the front of the picture? Or does it need some coolness hiding in the back? I'll take my chances. Oops. Wow. Turn it all around again. Set out these things. Once again, the rule of the eyeballs. If it looks too much like an eyeball, it will be interpreted as such. Oh, how do I deselect things? Got the trouble, I've got too many things simultaneously selected. Don't want to shatter the sense of form that I have established. Did that make it better or worse? Still, this thing is one of my favorite shapes within this thing. That's interesting. Sort of hourglass quality coming through. I have always really liked the shape of a question mark. Not just because it looks cool, or not just because what it represents, asking a question, or something that may have more than one answer, but also it is a beautiful shape. That complicated curve of the typographical question mark. That's really putting, the darkness is really helping to bring together the image. Maybe a deeper blue. Oh, that green. Because of our sky, the color blue is very overused as a background. Put him in the visual corner of the room, so those grid lines, or even down here, or up there, looking down at everything. Maybe just about ready. I am going to save it here. More geometric shapes, maybe. Just a few to flavor things. Not that dark. The platonic solids are, of course, a symbol for logic. There is in this image a sort of, yeah, it could be good, interplay between logic and then absolute chaos throughout the rest of the image. Yeah, that's good. It's just about as interesting from the back as from the front. A few more cubes. Nice cube dissolving through the edge of that pink radar dish. Cube sneaking in on that one side. Don't want to impede that. But there. Adds a bit of interesting complexity. Too much blue would spoil it. Different blue. Wherever that would go, it would draw massive amounts of attention. Oh, I added flat parts in there, didn't I? Oh well. Said I wasn't going to do that, and then I did. Does it look better from this way or that way? That is an interesting line. I'm going to keep it. That also. That's interesting. The red and the blue interwoven. Almost like one of those body charts. It's a bit unfair. The red and the blue take over any picture. That's kind of the strongest pair of colors that we have. No wonder they're used to describe various opposite things, like politics. Is that a good shape? I guess so. Oh, that last part. Awful. If I stayed and looked at it for a while longer, though, I might have liked it. Don't want to wipe out some of my favorite curvy lines from the picture. Yeah, don't want to block those out. Then green and yellow are green and purple. Another powerful pair of opposites. When the tracking begins to go out, some really interesting shapes can result. Like that. Looks like a crazy eyebrow. I wish I could undo and redo here to just see if that's a good addition to the picture or not. But my artist sense is telling me that this is about done. I could continue adding to it until the computer runs out of memory, but this seems the right amount. I hope you have enjoyed watching, even though you probably fast-forwarded through a lot of it, as you should, because this has been a very long process, but an interesting one, right? CoolPaintrVR. Checking out the abstract capabilities of the rotation tool, as well as the so-called the organic shape features and others. Please subscribe if you like this kind of thing. I'm not sure if anyone will understand it. I hope that you will, but I've just been talking about it in case someone is interested. All right, that's about right. I'll see you again very soon.